Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My husband was in the late stages of stomach cancer before he passed away. He cried and said he regretted marrying me. He apologized for making his childhood sweetheart, who had waited for him in widowhood for 50 years, suffer alone. Then he decided to change his will, leaving his entire inheritance to her disabled son. I was so furious that I died on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 1 week before we were supposed to get our marriage certificate. This time, both my husband and I called off the wedding. He ran straight into the arms of his long-widowed childhood sweetheart, Lisa Carter. I picked up the phone and called home. I agreed to the arranged marriage, I said. On the other end of the line, my parents hesitated for a long time before cautiously asking, "Sophie, did Ethan Miller bully you?" I held back my tears and replied, "Zachary Evans has always been good to me since we were kids. I'm willing to marry him." In my past life, when Ethan and I first started our business, we suffered through countless hardships. At first, my parents refused to help us, and it was Zachary who used the Evans family's resources, both financially and strategically, to help me earn my first fortune. Later, when Ethan betrayed me on his deathbed, nearly leaving my children penniless, it was Zachary who sent his family's team of lawyers to fight for my children's rightful share of the estate. Ethan even left a will stating that he didn't want to be buried with me. It was Zachary, disregarding public opinion, who insisted on having me buried in the Evans family's ancestral cemetery. In my previous life, I abandoned Zachary, someone from the same social standing as me, to suffer alongside a penniless Ethan. I thought that if I endured all the hardships with Ethan and helped him build his empire, he would cherish me in return. But in the end, after becoming the richest man in the city, Ethan said he would rather be poor again if it meant he could pursue true love. This time, I would grant him his wish to be with his long-waiting childhood sweetheart. In this life, I want to be buried beside you, rightfully and honorably. Hanging up the phone, I planned to go to the grocery store. But on my way, I unexpectedly overheard a conversation between Ethan and Lisa. "Lisa, just wait 3 more months," Ethan whispered. "Sophie's parents only have one precious daughter. They will definitely give her a huge dowry. Once I go back to the city with her and her parents hand over the money, I'll quit my job, sell everything, and take the dowry with me to South City to you." Lisa's doe-like eyes were red, filled with tears as she looked pitifully at Ethan. "Are you sure I'm not a burden to you? Just for me, you're marrying a woman you don't even love?" she asked. Ethan couldn't hold back anymore. He pulled Lisa into his arms and said, "I already lost you once. This time I will never let go again." A flicker of triumph flashed in Lisa's eyes, but she deliberately put on a worried expression. "But if we take Sophie's dowry, what will happen to her?" Ethan scoffed indifferently. "Sophie's family is rich. This money means nothing to them." I nearly laughed out loud from sheer anger. It was the same in my past life. Whenever we ran into financial trouble, Ethan would act like it was only natural for my family to step in and bail him out. If he lacked connections, then obviously my parents should humbly ask for favors on his behalf. This time, I wanted to see how Ethan thought he could still become the wealthiest man in South City without my family's money and resources. When I got home, I started packing my things. Ethan suddenly walked in. "Sophie, Lisa is having pregnancy complications. The doctor said she needs to be transferred to the city hospital for better care," he said. "You know her family is poor. They don't have much money. I'm thinking of using the money from our wedding banquet to pay for her treatment." "Okay." I cut him off. Ethan was startled. He clearly hadn't expected me to agree so easily. He gave me a confused look before continuing. "Lisa's in-laws don't care about her, and she has no one to take care of her. I plan to stay with her at the hospital for a few days." "Okay," I said again. Ethan frowned, hesitating. "Sophie, don't overthink this," he said, trying to reassure me. "Lisa was my best friend's wife. My friend passed away, and now she's carrying his child. As his best friend, it's only right for me to help her." I nodded. "Help her then. I'm not stopping you from taking care of Lisa during her pregnancy." Ethan stared at me in disbelief. "You really don't mind?" I shook my head. Ethan smiled in satisfaction, then stretched out his hand toward me. "We're getting married soon. Didn't your mom secretly send you some money? I'm worried about hospital expenses. Give me another $1,000. I didn't even look up. I don't have any money. Ethan's expression changed. How could you not have money? Just a few days ago, you told me we didn't have enough for the wedding, but it was fine because your mom was going to send you $2,000. I glanced at him and replied flatly, my dad doesn't approve of our marriage. My mom wanted to send me the money, but my dad stopped her. Ethan immediately panicked. Then what about the dowry? I lowered my gaze, hesitating for a moment before speaking softly. There is no dowry either. Ethan exploded. No money and no dowry? Then what's the point of getting married? I curled my lips into a faint smirk. Then let's not get married. Ethan let out a frustrated sigh. At my words, Ethan pressed his lips together, looking visibly annoyed. He was silent for a moment, then lowered his head and said, since you don't want me to go to the hospital with Lisa for her pregnancy care, then fine, I won't go. But go get me $200,000. I'll buy some old hens and a few baskets of farm eggs for her. After all, she's carrying my best friend's child. I cut him off coldly. You're rushing to take care of her so eagerly. If I didn't know any better, I'd think Lisa was actually pregnant with your child. Ethan's face turned bright red and he shouted angrily, Lisa is miserable enough being a widow, now you're ruining her reputation too. Do you want to drive her to her death? I didn't want to argue with him anymore, so I replied indifferently, you're overthinking it. From now on, I won't interfere in your business with Lisa. If you want to spend money on her, go ahead. If you want to buy her things, do whatever you want. If you want to stay by her side and take care of her pregnancy, that's your choice. Then I looked him straight in the eye and said firmly, Ethan, I'm not joking. The wedding is canceled. I'm going home. Ethan froze, his expression turning panicked as he grabbed my arm. Sophie, what do you mean by this? Lisa is a pregnant widow. I was just going to the hospital with her to help. Can't you be more understanding? Can't you be a little kinder? Just then, Lisa walked over, her large pregnant belly evident as she approached. She smiled gently at me and said, Sophie, it's all my fault. You're about to marry Ethan, and now you two are arguing because of me. Please don't fight over this, okay? It's my fault. I'll apologize. I won't go to the hospital anymore. I can stay home for my pregnancy care. It's just that the doctor said I'm anemic and need to get some nutrient injections and buy some supplements like donkey hide gelatin. But I really don't have any money. As she spoke, she glanced at Ethan with a troubled expression. Ethan immediately stepped toward her and reassured her. Don't worry about anything, Lisa. Just focus on taking care of yourself. I'll go to the city later to buy you some donkey hide gelatin. Oh, and also get some red dates, brown sugar, and farm eggs. I'll bring them to you tonight. While speaking, Ethan deliberately turned to look at me, signaling for me to hand over the money. Lisa noticed my silence, and a glimmer of triumph flashed across her eyes. She then added, also for the childbirth and the baby's 1-month celebration party, I calculated that I'll need at least $22,000. She sighed and turned to me with a pitiful expression. Sophie, I'm not like you. Your parents are city officials. I'm just a poor girl from the countryside. My parents favor sons over daughters. When I got married, all they gave me was 2 quilts, no money at all. Ethan told me your mom sent you $2,000 for the wedding. Could I borrow that money for now? Lisa grasped my hand lightly, her voice sweet and pleading. Don't worry, Sophie. Once the baby is born, even if I have to sell everything I own, I'll make sure to pay you back. Before I could respond, Ethan interrupted with an emotional smile. Lisa, we're family. What's the point of talking about borrowing and repaying? Once Sophie marries me, she'll be your sister-in-law. Isn't it only right for a sister-in-law to take care of her brother's wife? Lisa widened her eyes, looking at me expectantly. So about that $2,000. I suddenly felt amused. I was curious what expressions Ethan and Lisa would have when they realized that all their scheming was for nothing. So I deliberately said when my mom tried to send me the money, my dad found out. He said we won't be getting it anytime soon. We have to wait a few more days until he calms down. Ethan immediately pressed for details. How many days? How long do we have to wait? At least a week, I replied casually. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan and Lisa exchanged a quick glance, their faces lighting up with excitement. Before leaving, Ethan turned to me with an appreciative expression. "Sophie, I really appreciate how understanding you are. The way you care for Lisa. This is what being a good sister-in-law looks like. Don't worry about the $2,000 just yet. I'll borrow some money from the villagers later. You just need to sign the IOU. When your mom sends the money, you can pay it back." I lowered my head and smiled, pretending to agree. Ethan nodded in satisfaction, then carefully helped Lisa as they walked away together. That afternoon, Ethan started going door to door borrowing money. Without exception, he used my name as the guarantee. Some villagers were skeptical and came to ask me directly if I was really the one borrowing the money. I pointed at Lisa's house where 3 newly built brick rooms stood. Whether the money was borrowed by me or Ethan in the end, it's all going to Lisa for her pregnancy care. The money is for her, and if we can't pay it back, well, isn't Lisa still here? That house of hers is brand new. If needed, they can always sell it for a few thousand. Hearing that there was a house as collateral, the villagers quickly agreed, and Ethan successfully borrowed $2,000. That evening, Lisa's eyes turned red with gratitude as she clutched the expensive donkey hide gelatin that Ethan had bought for her. "Sophie, thank you so much for lending me the money." I waved my hand dismissively and gestured toward Ethan. "If you want to thank someone, thank Ethan. He's the one who went door to door borrowing it." I made sure to say this loudly enough for the passing villagers to hear. They glanced at Ethan and Lisa, their gazes filled with subtle amusement. A strong, energetic man spending all his time taking care of a young, pretty widow. Anyone with common sense would know how that looked. And yet these two either truly didn't realize or were pretending to be oblivious, thinking that hiding behind the excuse of being old classmates could shield them from gossip. In my past life, I had noticed Ethan's unusual affection for Lisa, but I had been foolish enough to cover for them in order to protect his reputation. But this time, without me playing the fool and helping them keep up appearances, they didn't even bother hiding it. One of them stayed at her house all day, fetching water, chopping firewood, washing clothes, cooking, acting like he was the rightful man of the house. The other, heavily pregnant, lovingly wiped his sweat and served him water as if she was the legitimate wife. The villagers found the whole situation entertaining. They laughed at me behind my back, saying that even a pregnant woman could steal my man. I simply smiled and said nothing. I turned around and mailed my last package at the post office. Time flew by, and soon the day arrived. The day I was supposed to marry Ethan. In my past life, I hadn't left yet because I was waiting for this exact moment. This time, I was going to shatter Ethan's little dream with my own hands. Early in the morning, I packed my things and waited at the youth camp for Ethan. To my surprise, Lisa came along, her pregnant belly prominent beneath a bright red cotton jacket. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold as she followed behind Ethan. I glanced at myself. I was wearing a deep blue work jacket. If someone didn't know any better, they would have thought Lisa was the one getting married today. Before I could say anything, Ethan spoke up first. "Sophie, back when my family was poor, Lisa and my best friend never even had the chance to take a wedding photo together. My best friend and I looked quite similar, so since we're already going to the city for my wedding photos, I thought, why not help Lisa take one too? It'll be like a late wedding photo for her and my friend." The moment those absurd words left his mouth, the surrounding villagers who had gathered to watch were stunned. I, on the other hand, simply chuckled and said, "Why don't you two just make it official and get your marriage license while you're at it?" Ethan's face immediately darkened. "Sophie, what do you mean by that?" His expression darkened further. "What do you mean by that?" I smirked coldly. "I meant exactly what I said. We're not even married yet. And you're already planning to use my dowry to support your best friend's widow. Why don't you just marry her yourself? That way, you can take care of her for the rest of your life, fair and square." Ethan's face turned stormy, but before he could respond, Lisa suddenly covered her face and started crying. "Sophie, it's my fault. It's all my fault. I just admire you too much. I envy that you get to marry Ethan, such a good man. I envy that you get to take wedding photos with him. If it makes you upset, I'll go back right now. I won't take the photos. Is that enough?" Ethan immediately grabbed her hand, stopping her. "No, I promised to take the wedding photos with you, and I keep my promises. If Sophie can't even tolerate something this small, Then she's not worthy of being a daughter-in-law of the Miller family. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, I'm not worthy of marrying into your family? I turned to him and said, Ethan, then let's break up. The moment the words left my mouth, I saw the flicker of joy in Lisa's eyes. Ethan's lips tightened in displeasure, and he spoke in a cold tone. Sophie, Lisa told me before that you used to bully her. I never believed it until today. Now I see it with my own eyes. You just can't stand her, can you? Well, let me make things clear for you. My best friend is gone. Lisa and the child she's carrying are my responsibility for life. If you can accept that, then come with me now to get our marriage certificate. If you can't, then we'll break up. I let out a mocking laugh. Then let's break up. I'm heading back to the city today. I won't waste your time. You and Lisa can go take your wedding photos in peace. Right in front of the entire village, I tore apart the flimsy illusion between Ethan and Lisa. Their faces flushed red with embarrassment, and immediately the villagers burst into whispers and gossip. I knew it. I always suspected there was something between Ethan and Lisa, but no one believed me. Who would have thought Lisa's pregnant with his best friend's child? Yet she's already latched on to Ethan. Or maybe that baby isn't even his best friend's in the first place. Why else would Ethan be more worried about her pregnancy than the actual father? Exactly. He's the one running around borrowing money for her pregnancy supplements. If that's not suspicious, I don't know what is. Hearing the flood of gossip, I could barely hold back my laughter. Then someone suddenly realized something. Wait a minute. Ethan said his future wife would help pay off the debts, but now that Sophie isn't marrying him anymore, who's going to take care of it? The villagers who had lent Ethan money immediately surrounded him, demanding an explanation. Ethan turned to me in desperation. Sophie, you promised. You said when your mom sent the money you'd pay the debt. I shrugged. I also said that money was my dowry. Now that our wedding is off, you're not my husband. Why should you get to spend my dowry? Ethan froze completely. He and Lisa had planned to dump the entire $2,000 debt on me, then take the and run. Since the IOUs were supposed to be signed under my name, the creditors would have come after me. But now reality hit him hard. He suddenly remembered that I had never actually signed the IOUs. I leisurely watched the colors shift across Ethan's face. Red with anger, white with shock, green with frustration. After enjoying the sight for a moment, I pulled out a stack of IOUs from my bag. With a flick of my wrist, the papers fluttered down like snowflakes, smacking directly onto his ashen face. You borrowed the money, pay it back yourself. I'm done with this nonsense. With that, I swung my leg over my bicycle and pedaled away from the village that had trapped me for 5 years. Behind me, I heard Ethan's furious shouts and Lisa's frantic explanations. That money was all borrowed by Ethan. It has nothing to do with me. And then Ethan's enraged roar. You beat. I didn't even spend a single dime of that money. It all went to your damn pregnancy supplements. You want to wash your hands of this now? Keep dreaming. The scene was complete chaos that day. I didn't manage to leave for the city as planned. The villagers had called the police, demanding that Ethan and Lisa repay their debts, but neither of them had the money. They kept insisting that the loans had been taken out under my name. The officers at the police station called me in for questioning. After I explained everything in detail, even the officers found the whole situation ridiculous since Ethan and I had never officially gotten married, so we weren't legally considered husband and wife. That meant the debts Ethan incurred had nothing to do with me. On top of that, none of the loans had my signature. In the end, the police ruled that the debts were entirely Ethan's responsibility. I was released immediately, while Ethan and Lisa, unable to repay their loans, were trapped inside the station surrounded by furious creditors who wouldn't let them leave. The next day, I finally boarded the train back home. Just as the train was about to depart, I saw Ethan on the platform. He was running alongside the train, shouting desperately, Sophie, I was wrong. I won't take care of Lisa or her child anymore. Please just stay. I'll treat you well, I promise. What a joke. How exactly was he planning to treat me well with his pathetic job as a film projectionist in town, earning $25 a month? Or with that lying mouth of his, always making empty promises? As soon as I stepped out of the station, I looked up and saw my parents standing in the crowd with Zachary Evans beside them. My dad's eyes were red-rimmed and my mom, without a word, smacked me hard on the arm. Before I could even say ouch, she pulled me into a tight embrace. "You little brat, you were willing to throw away your parents for some worthless man," she scolded. "Do you dare pull this nonsense again?" I awkwardly glanced at Zachary. Looking back, during those years in the countryside, I had slowly fallen for Ethan, perhaps because I saw a bit of Zachary in him. Zachary and I had grown up together in the same military compound. We were childhood friends. Back then, he was the leader of the neighborhood kids while I was just a silly little girl running around in toddler pants. He never really liked playing with us, but at the same time, he never let anyone from outside the compound bully us either. Later, when we were sent to the countryside, I ended up in Apricot Blossom Town, while Zachary's family was exiled to the farthest northern border because his grandfather had been labeled a political outcast. I never expected that after all these years, our families would end up arranging a marriage between us. Since our families knew each other well and Zachary and I had grown up together, the engagement was settled quickly. A month later, Zachary and I got married. The wedding was held at the Evans family's ancestral estate, after their political status was reinstated. The Evans family reclaimed many of their properties, including their old estate, which was now a sprawling, elegant mansion reminiscent of a classical Suzhou garden. But my family wasn't lacking either. As part of my dowry, my parents gifted me half of their assets. Ethan probably never imagined that if he had been loyal to me, he could have had so much more than my mother's mere promise of $2,000. After the wedding, at my suggestion, Zachary and I entered the home appliance business. In my past life, Ethan's job as a film projectionist became obsolete not long after we got married. In the early 90s, more and more households had televisions and VCRs. Back then, I believed that Ethan's experience as a projectionist would give him an advantage in the industry, so I poured all my savings into his business venture. As luck would have it, he rode the wave of the times and eventually became the biggest home appliance tycoon in South City. This time, however, things wouldn't go so smoothly for him. With the Evans family's vast network of commercial properties in South City, Zachary and I had a significant advantage. We had lower rental costs when starting our business, and with the support of my dowry and the backing of my relatives, we quickly gained a foothold in the market. In just 2 years, Zachary and I became the dominant force in South City's home appliance industry. Meanwhile, Ethan had originally planned to scam me out of my dowry and elope with Lisa, but to his shock, I had called off our engagement and returned to the city instead. Now, the dowry that he had counted on was completely out of his reach. Not only did Ethan fail to get a single cent from me, but he ended up drowning in debt. I later heard that in order to repay what he owed, he actually convinced Lisa to sell her 3-room brick house. The money from the sale was used to clear his debts, and with what little was left, Ethan planned to follow the same path as in our previous life, buying and reselling home appliances to make his first fortune. But just as he was about to start, Lisa had a complicated childbirth. The irony was laughable. Back then, the two of them had used her supposed malnutrition as an excuse to trick me into lending money for her pregnancy supplements. But in the end, Lisa had overindulged during her pregnancy. The baby grew too large, and she nearly lost her life in labor. The child had been stuck in the womb for too long, and by the time he was born, he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Due to excessive bleeding during childbirth, Lisa had to undergo a hysterectomy. She would never be able to have children again. The moment Ethan learned that Lisa could no longer bear children, his expression darkened. They had originally planned to get married after the baby was born, but now 2 years had passed, and Ethan still refused to make it official. He was still dreaming of using Lisa's house money to start his appliance business in South City. In my past life, I had given Ethan every penny I had and even borrowed money from relatives to support his business. But this time, Lisa, terrified that he would abandon her once he got rich, refused to support him. Instead, she sent all their money to her maternal family. Unfortunately for her, her brother was a gambling addict. Within a month, he had lost every last cent of the money Lisa had stashed away at her parents' home. Ethan had already counted that money as his startup capital. When he found out it was gone, he nearly beat Lisa to death that very night. In this life, without my interference, Ethan and Lisa did get back together. But their fate, it was nothing like a fairy tale where the prince and princess lived happily ever after. Ethan resented Lisa for ruining his engagement to me. He hated that she would rather throw their money away on her gambling brother than support his business like I had. When he realized that Lisa was of no help to his career and was nothing but a burden, Ethan began secretly going on blind dates behind her back. Lisa, on the other hand, had grown to hate Ethan just as much. She despised how his vows of lifelong devotion had been nothing but empty words. He had promised to take care of her and their child forever, but the moment she was penniless and infertile, he turned his back on her and even dared to go behind her back looking for another woman. Now, without a home and with her reputation in ruins, Lisa had no choice but to cling desperately to Ethan. Whenever he went on a blind date, she would show up holding their sickly child, kneeling in front of the other woman and sobbing, begging her to let Ethan go so that she and her child could have a chance to survive. Before long, matchmakers from all over town stopped introducing Ethan to potential brides. Lisa, seeing no way out, began forcing Ethan to marry her, but Ethan still clung to his dream of becoming the richest man in South City. To him, Lisa was just dead weight, useless to his ambitions, and so they remained stuck in this entanglement for 3 years. Lisa never got the marriage she wanted, and Ethan never saved up enough money to start his business in South City. Meanwhile, Zachary and I had been anything but idle. With my suggestion, Zachary imported the latest home appliance production line from overseas. Not only did we sell home appliances, but we also expanded into manufacturing them. But no matter how busy Zachary was, he always insisted on taking me along on his trips. Whenever I was too lazy to go, he would put on a pitiful face and say, "If you don't come with me, the businessmen I meet will definitely arrange for women to entertain me. You have to protect my innocence." I couldn't help but laugh every time he said it. Then I got pregnant with triplets. The moment he found out, Zachary completely transformed into a homebody. He didn't even want to travel for business anymore. 8 months later, I gave birth to 3 beautiful babies, 2 boys and a girl. The moment they were born, Zachary cried like a child, and then behind my back he secretly went and got a vasectomy. When I found out, he justified it by saying, as a representative of private entrepreneurs, I should take the lead in following the policy. 1 pregnancy is more than enough. The pregnancy had taken a serious toll on my body. For the next few years, my health remained fragile. Zachary panicked and for some reason started listening to some spiritual guru, convinced that doing charity work would bring blessings to our family. I never expected that at one of these charity events, I would run into Ethan and Lisa again. Ethan had still not given up on his entrepreneurial dream. But this time, without my dowry and without my family's connections, he had nothing to rely on. Ethan had no choice but to start from the bottom. He rented a small storefront in Apricot Blossom Town and made a living repairing home appliances while dabbling in selling secondhand electronics. When he went out on repair jobs, he left Lisa to watch the store. That day, Zachary and I had just finished donating books, school supplies, and sports equipment to the elementary school in Apricot Blossom Town. As we stepped out of the school gates, a loud commotion erupted from the street. Looking up, I saw Ethan, dressed in a greasy work uniform, gripping Lisa's hair with one hand while slapping her viciously with the other. "You shameless!" Ethan shouted. "How dare you close the shop and fool around with the barber next door while I am out working?" Lisa, her face red from the slap, screamed back, "You're the shameless one, Ethan. You want me to watch the store, cook and clean, but you refuse to marry me and give me a proper title." As they argued, my name suddenly came up. Lisa, eyes filled with anger and humiliation, spat out, "Do you really think dragging this out means you'll get back together with Sophie? Keep dreaming. I already looked into it. Sophie has been married for years. She even has 3 kids now. Why the hell would she wait for you?" She sneered. "And her husband? He's the richest man in South City, a home appliance tycoon. Compared to him, you're nothing but a pathetic repairman, a toad dreaming of eating swan meat." Ethan's eyes turned bloodshot with rage. He clenched his fists, about to lunge at Lisa when, out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of me. He froze in place. "Sophie, you're back. I knew you wouldn't forget me." His voice trembled with excitement. "You love me so much, there's no way you'd marry another man, right? You were forced into it, weren't you? Your family pressured you, didn't they?" His voice grew increasingly desperate. "Sophie, don't be afraid. I never got married. I've been waiting for you this whole time. I'll kick this Lisa out right now. I see her for what she really is. I swear I'll never have anything to do with her again. We can be together just like before." The sheer delusion in Ethan's eyes nearly made me gag. Zachary, clearly displeased, pulled me into his arms protectively. His sharp gaze landed on Ethan like a blade. Where did this lunatic come from? Ethan's eyes were locked on me as if waiting for me to acknowledge our so-called relationship. I gave him a polite, indifferent smile and said casually, "Oh, he's just someone I used to know from my time in the countryside." Zachary frowned slightly and gestured to his secretary. "Go ask this man's family if they'd like to send him to a hospital for a mental checkup. Put the fees on my personal account." Ethan flinched as if struck, his face twisted in disbelief, and he started shaking his head frantically. "No, I'm not crazy. Sophie is my wife. She was supposed to be my wife. There must be some kind of mistake." Zachary ignored him, calmly guiding me into the car as we drove away. I turned my head just in time to see Ethan lose all semblance of control. He was screaming my name like a madman in the middle of the street. After that charity event, I didn't visit Apricot Blossom Town for a long time. The next time I heard about Ethan was during a summer camp our company had sponsored for underprivileged children. As part of the program, we invited children from various towns, including a few from Apricot Blossom. One of the students shared a horrifying story. He spoke about a tragedy that had taken place in his town. Apparently, one of his former classmates, a child with cerebral palsy, had been eligible for financial aid from a charitable foundation. But when his father heard that the sponsor was our company, he refused the assistance outright. Later, the child had been playing in their store and accidentally damaged a batch of DVD players that his stepfather had just stocked. Furious, the man nearly strangled the child with an electric cord. The child's mother had thrown herself at him, trying to save her son, only to be stabbed over 30 times with a fruit knife. She bled out on the spot. When the murderer was arrested, he was still screaming about how he was destined to become South City's richest man, and how he was going to start over from scratch. By then, Ethan had already been executed. After Lisa's death, their child, born with cerebral palsy, was abandoned. No relatives were willing to take him in, so he was sent to an orphanage. Ethan's final moments, a side story. After Sophie left, I thought I would be happy. I thought that in this life I could finally grow old with the woman I loved. But it didn't take long for both Lisa and me to regret it. She resented me for being useless. Our family had no money, and I couldn't give her the same life she had before, where she ate red dates, brown sugar, and dried high gelatin every day. I mocked her, saying she had the habits of a noblewoman but the fate of a servant. She had known that the only reason she lived so well before was because Sophie had been supporting me. And now, after forcing Sophie out of my life just to marry me, she turned around and blamed me for not holding on to her. I regretted it too. Even though I had lived a second life with the memories of my past success, without Sophie's dowry and without the Evans family's support, I couldn't even dream of selling home appliances in South City. I couldn't even keep a small repair shop running in Apricot Blossom Town without trouble. I tried to handle things the way I had in my past life by calling the police. Back then, Sophie's uncle had been a high-ranking official, and with just one phone call, no one dared to cause trouble for us again. But this time, Lisa's uncle was nothing but a gambling addict who was more of a burden than a help. He even came to our store to freeload off us. When I reported the local thugs, the police barely did anything. They scolded them a little and let them go, and soon enough coming back for revenge every morning when I opened the shop, they would come and make trouble. I had no choice but to start paying protection money, 30% of my earnings, just to keep the store open. I truly regretted everything. I worked myself to the bone, taking on as many repair jobs as possible, hoping to save up enough money to leave this place, return to South City, and get Sophie back. But for some reason, every time I managed to save a little, something would happen that drained it all away. The first year, our son was born with cerebral palsy and developed epilepsy. All our savings were wiped out, and we fell into tens of thousands in debt. The second year, my father was gored to death by a crazed bull while herding cattle. The funeral cost me everything I had. The third year, my mother attempted suicide by drowning but was rescued. The medical bills drained every last cent I had painstakingly saved. In my past life, Sophie had taken care of everything at home. My parents had lived well into their 90s, and I never had to worry about a thing while I was out building my career. But this time, every small crisis at home was enough to ruin me. Lisa, all she ever did was cry. At first, I had the patience to comfort her, but over time, the sound of her sobbing filled me with uncontrollable rage. I wanted to strangle her. It was all her fault. If Lisa had just stayed in her lane instead of seducing me while she was widowed, Sophie and I would have been married long ago. But now, every time I came home, all I was greeted with was Lisa's endless wailing and our useless troublemaking son. If I had known that being with Lisa would end up like this, I would have dragged Sophie to the registry office the moment I was reborn. My thoughts snapped back to the present as I looked at the chaotic, rundown repair shop. I knew my life was over, so I killed Lisa with my own hands. I didn't try to run. I just sat there quietly waiting for the police to arrive. When I was sentenced to death, I didn't feel afraid. In fact, I even felt a hint of joy. In my past life, I had only been reborn after dying. Maybe this time, if I died sooner, I would see Sophie again sooner. In my next life, I would love her properly. I would never let another man take her from me again. Sophie, wait for me.